All right, today we're talking about enforcement when it comes to your company, your dietary supplement company, your food company, maybe your natural health products line. And when I talk about enforcement, it's not necessarily an agency like FDA or Health Canada. There are other levels of enforcement from the standpoint of someone checking in on you. So we're going to talk about that today. Now, if this is your first time here, my name is Brian. I've got over 15 years of experience when it comes to regulatory quality assurance in the dietary supplement space, in the food space, as well as natural health product space, targeting North America, so US and Canada. I've got a LinkedIn link as well down below. Say hello, connect with me on there. I'd love to hear from you guys. And of course, if you have questions for me, throw them down in the comments. All right, let's get to it. Enforcement. The obvious one is the agencies, right? The government agencies such as your FDA, Health Canada, maybe a USDA, and also a government body like FTC, the Federal Trade Commissions. These are guys that will be coming after you. They do have regulations and laws in place, and they're expecting you to comply. So how do they enforce? Typically, generally speaking, there's only so many resources that they have, right? There's only so much funding. And there are a lot of companies out there, big and small. Maybe they just started up like yourself, or they've been around for several years and have 10,000 employees. So who do they go after and how do they do it? Well, the first one is they definitely want to catch things coming into the country. So anything crossing the border, import, export, that's a level of enforcement, right? They're definitely going to use that to their advantage to stop the supply of adulterated food or adulterated supplements or illegal supplements from entering the market. So if you are crossing the border, there is definitely a responsibility on the person shipping to prove that their product is safe and meets these requirements. So that's the number one, is at the importation level. Number two is random testing. They're just going to go around to the markets, grab products off the shelf at random and just test it, right? They know what the inherent risks are for a particular category of food or supplement or natural health product. And so they have an idea of what to test for and what the parameters should be, especially when you're talking about things like E. coli, salmonella, maybe particular nutrients in a product as well. They're going to look at that. They're also going to look at your label, and essentially it's just random testing. And sometimes they get hits where they need to further investigate a particular company, and that may be you, hopefully not. But that's another level of enforcement that they have. Another means of them enforcing their laws and regulations is through inspections. They can actually go into the facility and look at all the documentation of your manufacturer. So they'll look at the test records, they'll look at their manufacturing records, they'll look at their cleaning records. Maybe they use a pest control service, they'll look at that. They'll look at any sort of monitoring. So for example, if they're monitoring the temperature of a facility or the humidity of a facility, they're going to look through all those documents, they're going to look how people are trained. They're going to dive into all of those things, as well as just look at the facility itself. I mean, some facilities are god awful, right? They're dirty. You look underneath the table and there's just dirt everywhere. Like really looking at the actual equipment, the actual production line, talking to the personnel, and then of course looking at the documents too. All right, so that's enforcement from a regulatory agency, right? A government body. But what about the other guys? Well, the next example are lawyers, right? These could be litigators. These could be what they call bounty hunters, right? They're going out to find companies that are not in compliance and just suing them, A, to get them in compliance, but B, and I would argue that this is the primary motivation, is to actually make money through way of settlements. So you see a lot of these things with regards to slack fill. So you're buying a powder product and it settles over time. And you can sometimes see that in the tubs where they have a dashed line on the tubs, or it might have that statement, contents may settle over time or by the time you open this or something like that. And so the whole point of that is because they've been sued by lawyers, by litigators that said to them, hey, how come you're selling me a tub that's this big, but it's only filled 1/3 up, right? The problem there is that what's happening is they're filling it up at the time of manufacture, and there's all this air with the powder, right? And so it's up here, and then as it ships, it settles, right? Over time, it's going through the carriers, the trucks, and transport. And now it's all compacted and it's only a third of the way up in the jar. And so they've been sued. They go through a settlement process, they pay a certain fund, and they say, you know what, and we'll slap on this statement on our label. And the lawyer's like, okay, cool, we come to an agreement. So it's helping consumers to a certain degree, but I would argue there's that huge benefit for them, which is all around lawyers' fees and that compensation through settlements. And these lawyers are also looking at misleading claims. You see a lot of these things with regards to weight loss. You know, how I lost 60 pounds in 2 days, right? The FTC is going to be cracking down on them. And let's just say the FTC cracked down on a company and now it's public information. It's on their FTC website and maybe the company put a statement out there from their point of view. And what happens are these lawyers are watching this and they see, FTC ruled on them and found them guilty of misleading the consumers. Now I'm going to also sue them myself, right? Because there's a precedent set. And there's been a decision made that product is misleading. So they are watching for these things, and these lawyers are ready to jump on and actually sue the company even further and saying, well, now you've damaged my clients in addition to, as a result of you not complying with FTC regulations or requirements as well. The next level of enforcement would be your customers. Let's say you're trying to get into Amazon. Let's just say you're trying to sell into a very popular retail chain or even a small retail chain in your local neighborhood, right? These companies are also wanting to make sure that they're not introducing foods or products that are unsafe to their consumers that could hurt their brand, that could hurt their reputation, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to ask you for appropriate documentation to prove that your product is safe. They may ask you for your food safety plan, right? They may ask you for your recall plan. They could ask you for all these documents, and they can even ask you for proof that your claims are actually truthful. And the whole point of this is for them to do their due diligence to ensure that what they're bringing into their marketplace is not false, not misleading to their consumers, and it's safe for them to consume. And this would be done on condition if they were to bring your product in. And if you don't have that information ready, or you didn't build your product from factoring those requirements, you may not be able to get them what they're looking for. And as a result, you can't get your product into their storefront. And I will tell you, Amazon, I think, missed this several years ago. But they've definitely smartened up, and I've seen the job openings lately at an Amazon working with other clients, and you can see all the food safety rules that they're bringing in. Guys like Costco, they have their own quality team in there, so they're doing their vetting of their potential customers or their existing clients, and that may mean you, and you don't want that to hinder your growth, right? So you want to make sure that you have all your checks and balances in place so that you can easily provide this information to an Amazon or to whoever you want to sell your product into. Next group of people that could encourage enforcement are your consumers. That's right. Your consumers, the people that love your brand, that love your product, could actually impose a level of enforcement on you by way of going to the government agencies. So maybe a loyal fan ate your product, vomited, got this really bad stomach ache, couldn't sleep all night, maybe got the flu from it, and they felt that it was really your product that was the cause of it. Whether that's true or not, we don't know, right? But let's just pretend that they took your product. Of course, they may have drunk something else or eat something else, got sick, and now they're going to report it not just to you, but also to the FDA, right? Or to Health Canada. And so what happens is Health Canada gets a record of that. Now, it could be an isolated case, right? They may go to you for clarification as the company owner, or if they hear enough rumblings from the consumer. Remember I talked about the random sampling? They're going to go randomly sample your product on the shelf and test it and see, okay, this person exhibited symptoms as if they got poisoning from E. coli, right? Or salmonella. Let's go test their product for salmonella or E. coli and see where your product lands. And they're going to test a whole bunch of products, not just one. They're going to go across different lots, different stores, sample a whole bunch and test them all. So, and if they find something, then they go to you with that information and say, all right, Brian, what do you got for me? This is what we found. What do you have to say about it? So that's kind of how there's that extra level of enforcement from your own consumers, all right? So you have to figure out how would you address that. The next one is probably a level of enforcement that a lot of people don't even foresee. I think the other ones I talked about are fairly obvious for the most part, or it makes sense. The next one is about your warehouses, right? Where are you storing your product? You could be using a warehouse, a company, and these warehouses are also making sure that they've got their checks and balances in place as well, right? They may have been inspected by a government agency for something else completely unrelated to you, but in that inspection, your name came up because your product is sitting in their shelves, on a pallet somewhere. And so it may come back to you from a warehouse standpoint. They're going to start asking you questions, right, to defend themselves from FDA, and you have to be prepared to respond to that. So a lot of people don't think about these things. This is why you want to use a warehouse that is clean, that is reputable, that is GMP compliant, that does have the right certifications and registrations with the government agencies, if applicable, depending on what their operations are like. So these are all the things you definitely want to watch out for. But your warehouses could also be another area that will force you to comply to these regulations and rules and requirements. And again, this is why it's so important to have an advisor on your side to help you through all of these things, or a consultant or an expert that represents you. A lot of us rely, when I say us, I mean like startups, we rely on our warehouses to be the experts. We rely on our manufacturers to be the experts, right? Maybe we rely on one consultant, our labeling consultant, to be the expert. And to a certain degree, they do provide good insight, but at the end of the day, their interests is what is their first priority, not yours. And so they may be not disclosing the right information to you, or they genuinely think that their program is great, but they don't have the same expertise or skill to that proficient level to realize that there are actually some gaps in their program. And so you want someone on your side that will represent you, that will look for those things from the intent of protecting you, or at least informing you of these things so you can make an informed decision on what to do next. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Those are various levels of enforcement that you want to consider when starting up your business or growing your business. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. I might do a video on it and to help you guys grow your business. I'll talk to you later. Cheers.